Today I fucked up by scratching an itch while hooked up to a wireless heart monitor at the hospital. This happened just a few hours ago. A couple of days ago I went to the emergency department for chest pains. They found an irregular heartbeat, so I was admitted to the heart hospital for tests. My wife is a former heart RN, so she's talking shop with everyone and making sure I follow medical directions, as well as telling me in plain English what all the medical jargon means. After staying a couple of nights with me, I finally convinced her to go home and get a night's rest. 2 hours after she went home, the heart monitor lead started really itching. So I started scratching with gusto. This caused the wireless monitor in my hospital gown to shake, but I didn't think it was a big deal. Seconds later, the door to my room flies open and nearly a dozen people storm into the room. Turns out shaking the wireless monitor with my scratching sent out a false V-fib alarm, which means cardiac arrest. This happened in the middle of shift change, so when the alarm at the nurses' station went off, all the staff from both morning and night shifts dropped everything and ran to my room. Now my wife is on her way back here because I can't leave you alone for 2 hours without you making a scene at the hospital. FML. Too long did not read. Scratched at itch while on a heart monitor at the hospital. Staff thought I had gone into cardiac arrest. Wife is angry at me. I really thought scratching an itch was a euphemism for masturbation. I'm pretty sure all of the staff would much rather a false alarm than an actual cardiac arrest. You're embarrassing your wife in front of her new friends. I get allergies to the glue on those electrodes. When I stayed in the hospital for a month, they took them off and my skin went off with them. I left the hospital covered in square scars, but they've disappeared now. I got a 24 hours monitoring test the other week and my skin was red and itchy, but it wasn't long enough to damage. Had a lady that kept having runs of V-tach when she coughed. Couldn't make sense of it until I caught her coughing and saw her husband patting her on the back when she'd cough. Lol. I'm sorry, but this is hilarious. My sympathies to your wife. Hee hee. Today I fucked up spraying the contents of a cyst all over a hotel room, myself and my mom. I just stepped out of the shower and grabbed my phone to write this down, because it is surreal. So I am a pimple popper. I loathe it, and it is well known in my immediate family. I'm on a family trip and sharing a room with my older sister. We had some downtime and I asked her if she had something on her back that she wanted me to look at. She told me that she had a small cyst, that she was going to the doctor to get drained next week and that I probably shouldn't touch it. Which, of course I then wanted to. I pinched it a little bit, it was probably 2-3 cm across, and noticed that if I squeezed it hard enough, I could get a tiny bit out. Like 1 or 2 millimeters at the most. I did that a couple times and then our mother entered the room. I called her over to see the cyst. My sister and mom thinks it's gross. I'm the only weirdo, and as she came close. And I mean, real close, she used glasses. I gave it a light pressure on both sides to show of the size. Something inside sorta clicked. And out sprayed the most vile-smelling concoction of fluid and yellow-white lumps. The spray was perhaps a meter long and covered part of my glasses, my cheek, and landed in my mother's big, fluffy hair. The horrid texture was only surpassed by the smell. My mother gagged and ran to the bathroom. I can't believe you did that? My sister gagged and was appalled and embarrassed. What happened? And I was laughing my ass off with disbelief. My mother went to her room to shower. I washed my face twice. But the smell lingered. So I took a shower too. It's like the smell just can't leave our noses. Change of clothes, all windows open. We can still smell it at times. We're about to leave the rooms in the inn to go eat, but I'm not sure that any of us have an appetite any longer. Too long did not read. Pinched a cyst on my sister's back to show off the size to my mom. It subsequently sprayed the forbidden cottage cheese all over me and my mom. I feel cured of my morbid curiosity for a while. I was eating pavlova as I read that. Just so you know. Lulalol, that reminds me of this fucked cystic pimple I popped in my ex's ear. It was huge and that shit shot out like a rocket. There was so much pus in that thing, my compulsive ass was fascinated and deeply satisfied. I had been watching it fester for like a week before that. You should have had a third party videotaping that. Our popping could have easily pushed another 6 digits of karma into your account. That there is an abscess. That smell is from the infection. Keep an eye on it and keep it clean. I am a popaholic 100,000%. That sounds like magic. In that gross way, of course. I wish our popping was more of these kinds of pops. Dr. Pimple Popper stuff is too many just big sacks and balls cut out. Hardly any real squirt pops. Taking about this is gross, but it is just so satisfying. This sounds magical. I also am a weirdo, man. I wish I could have seen that. Today I fucked up by making it impossible to just hold hands with my partner. Obligatory. This started months ago and culminated today, with a side of, sorry I'm on mobile. TL, drive. I started a never-ending thumb war with my competitive partner, and now we can't hold hands without an instant struggle for dominance. One day, I was bored while cuddling with my partner and challenged them to a thumb war. They laughed and agreed pretty quickly. They were rather startled by how quickly I won, and demanded a rematch. I won again. This is where I messed up. Had I let them win on the rematch, the last several months of thumb wars would not have happened. I've lost a couple of surprise battles, but by and large, except for the unfortunate descent into the licking winds of a bad time in April, I won 90% of the time. It's gotten to the point that when we hold hands, we automatically go to battle positions, dominant hand or not. I broke a basic form of intimacy because I had to win. Edit. We just placed a moratorium on future thumb wars unless they start off with the traditional incantation of 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war. Here's hoping we can hold hands like sane human beings. Probably the most wholesome today I fucked up I've seen. Well, this is easy. You let them win, have the talk about it ruining holding hands, and get intimacy back again. You'll both shelve the competitive streak to enjoy holding hands again. Why can't you just snag a win then hold hands for however long? Okay, no one else is wondering about the descent into the licking winds. I kinda need to know that rabbit hole of madness. Me and my fiancé used to do that a lot while holding hands when sitting across from each other on dates. Just casually holding hands, and then it would start innocently enough, but after a bit it got a little annoying and we cut it out because it had sort of become like a reflex. Just hold hands, start fidgeting, playing around, then thumb war, and truth be told she surprisingly won a lot. Her and I in comparison, she says something is heavy, I pick it up like nothing, but she can pin my thumb down and I can't move it. This sounds fun. Challenging my partner now. Thank you for the idea. Today I fucked up by ghosting my dad and brother for years. Context. My relationship with my dad has been rocky. He and my mom split when I was 9 years old and she had custody of my brother and I most of the time. I won't get into the family dynamics, but about 7 years ago, I cut my dad out of my life. We had a really bad relationship and it was severely impacting my ability to function to have him in my life at that time with the way he was. In retrospect, he and I both had things to work through on our own that we wouldn't have been able to do without space. A few years after that, my little brother left the house when he was 14 to go live with him. I didn't keep in contact with him. 3 years ago in December, I pulled into the parking lot of a theater to see Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Side note. What a soulless cash grab that turned out to be. I decided to call my dad randomly after realizing that there wasn't going to be a right time to resume communication with him. Hell, I didn't even know if he wanted to hear from me after all that time. Well, he picked up, and we had a great conversation for maybe 20 minutes before agreeing to get coffee on the week of Christmas. I was happy. I was going to start building a relationship back up with him, and it seemed from that phone call that we had found ourselves in better places than we were at when we parted. 4 days later, I text him thanking him for talking and letting him know I'll text him again to set up a time and place for coffee. No reply. The day after that, I ask if we are still on for coffee and throw out a place and time to ask if it works for him. No reply. A day after that, I tried calling him and got no response. So, I figured that he had put on a smiling face to talk to me during our phone call the week before, but that he wasn't over the fact that I had cut him off for those years. Thinking I had been given the cold shoulder, the last text I sent him that year was on Christmas Day, and it read, "Merry Christmas, Dad. Maybe we'll talk again someday. Until then, live well." This affected me more than I was willing to admit to myself for the next year. I smoked more to deal with the stress. I would break down rarely, and I didn't handle it in a healthy way overall. Fast forward to December 2020, almost a year since the last text I sent to him. I sent him another text telling him that I hoped he, my brother, and any other loved ones they had were in good health and happy. Then, in April 2021, I sent him a long text letting him know that I knew he probably didn't want to hear from me, but that I wanted to talk to him again and that I missed him. Yesterday, I tried calling him. Nothing. Then I sent him a link to the livestream of my college graduation happening in 6 days and told him I loved him. Nothing, but I had grown to expect this by now. Then, I had the bright idea of checking his contact page on my phone to see if I had the wrong number or if something weird had been happening that made my texts not get to him. I had forgotten that I blocked his number when I was 16, which came back to me when I saw it on his contact page. I undid the block, texted him asking if he could see my texts, and I got the first communication from my dad that I had seen in years. We just got off a FaceTime where we had an awesome conversation to reconnect. It turns out he could see my texts the whole time but thought I would ignore his replies. I told him what happened and he understood and forgave me without reservation. I felt so bad about my mistake, and probably will for the rest of my life. We talked about our lives and it made me realize that we were, in fact, both in better places to have a dad-son relationship again. We have a long way to go, but I feel like I got my dad back today. Dr. Parents separated, had familial troubles with my dad when I was 16, so I blocked him and forgot about this when I tried to reconnect with him as a young adult, making me think he gave me the cold shoulder until I realized at the ripe age of 23 that I had blocked him 7 years and this is why he couldn't reply to me, and we reconnected today. Seems like there was some major miscommunication but things are on the mend. I am sending nothing but good vibes your way. Praying for restoration and love in your guys' journey. How did that first call go through but none of the others did? The whole situation is pretty shit. Seems like if either party was really interested in reconnecting with one another, it wouldn't have stopped at a phone call, or lack thereof. I thought that your story would have a much less happy ending, and that the worst had happened and he passed away. I'm happy that you're able to reconnect, Op. We don't get to choose our family, and NC is definitely the right call for some, but it sounds like you're a success story on the way to healing. I wish you all the best. Just go with the flow when it comes to your dad. You made a big error by blocking him, but it wasn't intentional later. You had forgotten keep the lines of communication open and available now you're in a new place, new time. Wish you all this best as I am sure our wonderful Reddit family would agree with me. You can learn a lot by this experience, some good, some bad. You're talking with you dad again and that irreplaceable. Not gonna lie, thought the end result was your dad having passed. Super glad that I was wrong on that one.